refuse to identify yourselves. Who are
Bystander syndrome, cameras, and deputized thugs. I had to pull off my bonnet to make this video. Go back and watch that entire clip and take note of a few things. This meeting is taking place in Idaho. It's a Republican town hall meeting. And I don't know why it's a Republican town hall meeting opposed to being a town hall meeting. But the speaker from the podium, listen to what he says. He says, "You're not smart enough and you're crazy." And I don't know 100% who he's speaking to, but I believe he's speaking to the women in the audience. And that's an audience of white women. And I also want you to note how this white woman is dragged out of this assembly hall on her back by, I believe it's 3 white men that she clearly noted and identified. They're not even law enforcement. But I want you to know even more how not one person, male or female, stood up to come to her defense. Not one. Not one white woman, not one white man stood up to come to this woman's defense as she's being dragged out of this packed assembly hall by 3 men who she clearly identified intentionally. They're not even law enforcement. So basically, they're self-deputized thugs that took this matter into their own hands. And not one person stood up to help her, stood up to assist her. I also want you to take notice of how the white women in the audience responded, particularly the white women who were sitting there with men, presumably their husbands. 1, they knew not to get up. And 2, the husbands kind of relished in this woman's demise. And I can't help but to think about when I hear, why isn't anyone doing anything? Why isn't anyone doing anything to stop all of this illegal, disruptive activity of this administration? And what they're really asking is, why aren't our elected representatives doing anything to intervene? Our members of Congress, a lot of them are educated. They have these pedigrees. A lot of them, they have money, they have wealth, and they feel paralyzed to do anything. And they feel paralyzed to do anything because, think about it, our Congress is predominantly white men. But our Congress is predominantly white cowardice men that know they have no real power or authority. And that is one of the reasons why what we just saw in this clip that happened in Idaho, why not one white man, not one white man is going to stand up and say, no, we're not going to do it this way. Because you're talking about perhaps just blue-collar workers. They know they don't have no real power or authority, and they certainly don't have the millions of dollars that these folk we elect to have. But I also want to make a point. I want to go on record saying this. We're going to experience the highest spike of domestic violence that this country has ever seen. And it's not going to be behind closed doors. And we're going to see at the forefront of the victims when it comes to domestic violence, it's going to be white women. Because essentially what white women have done without knowing, yeah, they may have voted the way they usually vote, historically vote Republican, or they may have voted that way because it's what their husbands expected or demanded, or they may have voted that way because they thought they were going to partake in some kind of financial windfall with this current administration at the helm. But what they didn't bank on is when white men, and you just saw it, dragging this woman out, it's going to embolden them to do whatever the hell they want, no questions asked. So when you say, or when we hear police officers are going to have impunity in their line of work, you just actually gave impunity to the average white man. So you, white woman, just became his property. And he's going to be able to do whatever he wants. As soon as he realizes there's no consequences, it's going to be open season on you. So you're going to be expected to sit there like those white women we just saw in that assembly hall and do nothing. And for black folk, we already know, but here's our reminder. White women don't stand up for white women. White men don't stand up for white men. White women don't stand up for white women. And white men don't stand up for white women. We can't expect none of them to stand up for us. And we need to remember that. So when we see it happening, we need to mind our business.